Economists expect poor and middle-class families to bear the full impact of the government's proposal to tax junk food. Pag-asa is warning of extreme weather conditions as the onset of the El Niño happens in 1 or 2 weeks' time. The world is now talking about lessons learned after the catastrophic implosion of a submersible that set dive to see the Titanic. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Sean Yao. For all those with sweet tooths and are fond of eating junk food, you might have to cut back on your consumption or shell out more for your favorite snacks very soon. The government is warning or wanting to tax salty treats and sweetened beverages to earn more revenues for the national coffers. Mobile journalist Pam Vasquez with the details.
If the Department of Finance will have its way, prepackaged foods that do not have enough nutritional value should be taxed by 10 pesos for every 100 grams or 10 pesos per 100 milliliters. These includes confectionaries, snacks, desserts, and other treats that exceed fat, salt, and sugar content as specified by the Department of Health. The DOF also wants additional levy on sweetened beverages as much as 12 pesos per liter from 6 pesos per liter under the train law. The Marcos administration is looking at revenue of 76 billion pesos, and this is only in the first year of implementation of the measure. Aside from additional funds for the government, the imposition of new taxes is also aimed at curbing the citizenry's appetite for unhealthy food. The proposal is meant at cutting junk food consumption in the country by 21%. That could in turn prevent diseases and disorders from poor diet like diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and obesity.
Pag mas mataas kasi yung mga ganyang diseases, mas mataas din po ang requirement ng national government to care for the population. So I think it makes sense. You increase your revenue and at the same time you help the population to be healthier.
For one economist, the DOF's proposal will have a huge impact on the country's tight fiscal situation.
Makakatulong yun kasi marami na utang yung ating bansa mula nung pandemya. Sobrang laki, no? May 6 trillion. So far since 2020.
Social economic programs likewise stand to benefit from additional taxes from junk foods. However, the recipients of the fund could just be the same population that will bear the brunt of more expensive salty and sweet products. Many poor families rely on the cheaper salty food items like noodles for meals, while thousands of them also hawk salty and sweet snacks in the streets for livelihood. It is not yet clear when higher taxes for junk foods will kick in, but the government wants to get the measure going by way of legislation and implemented as soon as possible. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
And for one economist, the additional tax on salty and sweetened food would burden poor and middle-class households the most. ING Bank senior economist Nikki Mapa says this will make it difficult for these populations to purchase the said food items. Aside from that, Mapa said that the funds that will be generated through higher levy on salty and junk food won't be very significant.
In anything, when you have higher taxes on in particular products, there will be, I guess, some pushback, and some segments, particularly people who purchase these items, might face some higher prices and makes it a little more difficult for them to purchase these things. The issues on hand is that we need fresh revenues, and secondly, we need to help improve our citizenry's diet requirements and needs, right? So. If there could be at least some provision in that law that would set aside part of that 76 billion targeted collection to help provide alternatives, healthier alternatives, then perhaps that's one way we can move forward from this impasse.
Fellow Monetary Board member Eli Remolona will be replacing Felipe Medalla as governor of the Bangko Sentral. Remolona has been a member of the BSP since August 2022. Felipe Medalla's tenure will be ending on July 2. Remolona's career includes over a decade of service at the Federal Reserve of New York, followed by 19 years at the Bank for International Settlements of BIS. Moving on to the story that captured the world, the catastrophic implosion of the Titan submersible that killed 5 people. The tragedy is now sparking conversation about expeditions to the Titanic. For scientist and journalist Michael Gillen, all trips to the site should be stopped until the cause of the sub's failure is known. Gillen himself is a Titanic expedition survivor from 2000 after his submersible was trapped in one of the sunken ship's propellers. Nevertheless, the scientist is not keen on a permanent ban on the trips to see the Titanic, which sank in the North Atlantic back in 1912.
We need to put a stop to all trips to the Titanic. We need to stop, pause, take a deep breath, and ask people this question. Why do you want to go to the Titanic, and how do you get there safely? I'm not so sure as a scientist that I'm willing to go so far as to say there should be an outright permanent ban, because there is science to be learned down there.
And whether it's billionaires under the sea or migrants in a shipwreck, the United Nations says that all lives are precious. Aside from the Titan submersible, global attention is also on the ship carrying hundreds of migrants that capsized off Greece. The official death toll from that accident in Europe last week stands at 82, with the number of survivors at 104. The UN emphasized the humanist view when asked about the disparity between the two catastrophes.
I think all efforts must be made to save the lives of the people on this submersible. But by the same token, and I did say something similar on this yesterday, all of those who are risking their lives at sea must be protected. Any measures to protect people's lives, whether they're on a ship being piloted by human smugglers, or whether they're on a submersible device such as this one, all of them must be cared for.
We have more stories for you after this quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. The State Weather Bureau sees the onset of El Nino happening by the last week of June or the first week of July. Pag-asa officer in charge, Dr. Esperanza Cayanan, said the declaration of the weather phenomenon follows certain parameters. This includes the average temperature of the central equatorial Pacific in the last 3 months. Cayanan also said that while the Philippines will experience fewer typhoons during the El Nino, extreme weather events can still hit the country, particularly in the months of October and November. Senator Amy Marcos has weighed in on the issue of the, quote, corrected Maharlika Investment Fund bill. The presidential sister said that she did not want to get involved with the MIF since it seems the bill was railroaded and that there were many provisions in the measure that did not make sense to her.
Alam naman ninyo na hindi ako nakilahok sa Maharlika Bill dahil tulad ng maraming Pilipino, marami akong pangamba tungkol dyan. Sa tingin ko, masyadong hinog sa pilit at marami akong hindi naintindihan.
Nevertheless, Senator Marcos still rallied support for the administration once the Maharlika Fund bill becomes a law. The measure is now awaiting the signature of House Speaker Martin Romualdez and will be transmitted to the Office of the President after that.
Tulungan na lamang natin ang administrasyon na punuin at tuwirin yung mga malabo o magulo pa at kung may pagkakamali o pagsasamantala, sabihin na natin non-feasance, malfeasance, misfeasance, andyan ang oversight. Let's be mindful.
And the Chiefs sits down with insights of legal experts as constitutional questions on the corrected MIF bill arise. Catch that conversation at 8:30 p.m. only here on One News. One News Now will be back tomorrow at 7:45 a.m. Have a restful weekend. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News. All sides, all the time.